How's everyone doing? I'm Councilman Aaron Rouse and liaison to Something in the Water Festival. I want to welcome you all here to 2020 Something in the Water Community Conversation. And that is exactly what this will be. It's a community conversation. It's laid back. We have all the professionals here and subject matter experts here to answer all of your questions. But I'm so excited to share with you all the exciting things that are in store for Something in the Water 2020 this year in our community. First, I want to start off by allowing the panel to introduce themselves.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jen Hirsch. I'm a festival producer.
I'm Robbie Wells. I am an executive producer of Something in the Water, the festival, and an employee of Pharrell Williams at I Am Other.
Good evening. My name is Ford Englerth. I'm the president of Red Rock Entertainment Services, and we are the festival production company this year.
Good evening. I'm Brian Solis with the City Manager's Office. I'm point of contact on the planning and permitting for the festival.
And I'm Erin Sutton. I'm the emergency manager for the City of Virginia Beach.
Now, I know you all have important questions, and we've reserved a portion of tonight's presentation to answer all your questions. And hopefully, you all have gotten note cards to write your questions down. We have two representatives now from our communications department who will come and get your note cards if you haven't written down your questions at one of the tables. Coming up next will be Robbie to go over the presentation of just Something in the Water starting this year.
All right, well, I'm going to stand up. So first and foremost, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. Very excited to share where we're taking the festival. And sorry to stand in front of you. I don't know where the best place is to stand. Very excited to share just how this festival is progressing. I think a lot of you, if you live in Virginia Beach, are aware of the origins of the festival. I'm sorry, I think my phone's ringing. Oh, that's someone else's. Aware of the origins of the festival and its original purpose and intent. And we're excited to share, or for a second, just re-ground everyone in why we do what we do, why it was important to Pharrell to do this, and then talk about how it's evolving. Because this festival, from the very, very inception, had a vision and had a very, very clear vision. And last year was just the beginning. Last year was a proof of concept, a nice, kind of digestible version for a year one on very quick timing. Execution of the festival, and we're excited about this year because it's starting to get closer to what the original vision always was. But just for some regrounding, when we went into 2019, we did a lot with a very short amount of time. And in order to do that, we had to stay true to the original vision of the festival. And that vision was this. It was to shine a light or create a festival or create a moment in time in the Virginia Beach calendar that shined a light on the best that Virginia Beach had to offer, the best and brightest. And that's looking backwards, and that's certainly, and probably more importantly, looking forwards, and shining that light for the rest of the world to see. And that was a guardrail that we set for ourselves that said, does it fit that criteria? If it fits that criteria, yes, let's do it, because we had a short amount of time period, and we had to give ourselves pretty firm guardrails. The other guardrail we created for ourselves was to say, let's bring the best and brightest that Pharrell had encountered around the world in his travels over the years, back to Virginia Beach. And let's bring these things together and have them converse, have them exchange ideas, have them present side by side. And while we did that last year, introduced that idea last year, we're really excited about how that plays out this year. In 2020, what's the best way to say it? The underlying current of the festival is supercharged goodwill. Last year, if you asked Pharrell what made the festival a success, he would talk about goodwill. Goodwill would be one of those things he would, first of all, say it wasn't about him, it wasn't about even his team, it was about us, the community. But what galvanized that community were these great expressions of goodwill. And this year, it's that on steroids. We'll have more of those transformational experiences that we had in the convention center and even outside the convention center, more programming across the board, more engagements, and certainly more leave behinds. The leave behind aspect is really, really important to Pharrell personally, and the team has adopted that mantra. When we engage a brand or anyone that comes and becomes a part of the festival from outside of Virginia Beach, we encourage them to do something really, really compelling that sticks around and stays. And most are very much into that idea. The biggest step change difference in what we're doing with Something in the Water 2020 versus last year is the creation of the 4.5 days that happen in and around the Virginia Beach Convention Center right here before we even get to the music. And last year, if you recall, we had all the activity happening on the beach, but we also had some activity happening here in the convention center concurrently. And we decided this year, and we knew that that was important to be more than music last year. It was vital to Pharrell. It was vital to the laying of the groundwork of this festival that we had that intellectual side of the festival alongside the music and the fun. And this year, the biggest difference is we're now creating separation between those two things. Monday through Friday at the convention center are based on 5 thematic days of programming here in the convention center that are entirely free to the community.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What'd you say? What was that last word you said?
That was not planned. Entirely free to the community. Thank you.
Okay, entirely free to the community.
So that's an important distinction because much like last year in its entirety was a bit of a proof of concept. For us, these days are also a proof of concept. It's us getting closer to the original vision of the festival and doing it in a way that really extends a hand into the community. These are days, and I'll walk through what each one is, but it's rich with community engagement, community involvement. We have thought leaders from outside of Virginia Beach on stage with thought leaders from Virginia Beach or the 757 side by side, and that's a very important thing for us to be able to present and convey to the community, to see that people from this community right here can hold their own with people that are people that are from outside. So Monday is a day called Earth and Us. All these are Pharrell named, so some of them are quirky. In particular, Earth and Us. And Earth and Us is a day dedicated to health and wellness and humanity, and just generally speaking, being a good citizen. Citizen to others and citizen to the planet. So there will be literal health and wellness related content on this day, but there will also be content related to the environment, and climate change, and sea level rise, and things that are very pertinent to this particular location based on where we're at next to the water. Tuesday is a day about innovation and technology. When we say innovation and technology, it doesn't mean expressly tech, like in a very programming, technology-centric way. It's actually just more about innovative approaches to problem solving, innovative approaches to your life. We have a lot of interesting speakers coming in and engaging in conversations with locals about just that. So we're really excited about Innovation and Tech Day. It also happens to be the day where we have our pitch competition. There were a couple of pitch competitions, startup pitch competitions last year that happened separately, and we thought this year it made more sense to create the Something in the Water pitch competition and actually give it a much richer prize. And just in terms of longevity, the pitch competitions we did last year were amazing. This year, it's about taking those winners and following their journey as they go back into the community and execute their business plans. Wednesday is a day dedicated to women. To use Pharrell's words, his goal, his North Star for this particular day is to create a day of zero gravity for women where they don't feel the weight of the patriarchy weighing them down. I think it's a very worthwhile goal. And we're very excited about bringing a number of speakers to Virginia Beach to speak on this topic. And this particular day is rich in a variety of different subject matter that impacts women. It's women's interests, women's issues, conversations around gender gap, equality gaps, pay gaps, et cetera. And this day culminates with a really interesting event around the census and getting people out to vote. Thursday is a day dedicated to food and wine. And for Thursday, we actually move outside of the convention center and into the Vibe District, where Pharrell has brought in some of his chef friends from around the globe, literally around the globe, to come collaborate with some of the local chefs and restaurateurs of Virginia Beach as part of a food-centric day. And that'll be fun. That'll be conversations and food experiences happening both indoor and outdoor throughout the Vibe Districts. And then Friday finally is Career Day, or what I like to call 757 Opportunity Day. This is a day where the college students are starting to come into town in large groups, and they're looking for something to do, and we're hoping to bring them to the convention center where they can not only see Pharrell engage in a really rich conversation about careers, but then find themselves into rooms and in networking situations with actual employers from the 757. This is our chance to get people to come here and stay here. So we're really excited about that programming in the convention center. And then on Friday through Sunday is what everyone probably remembers from last year, except just bigger and better and more expansive. So we have our music for 3 days on the beach, we have brand activations, and we have our pop-up church service. All those things are coming back, and most of the brands that participated in, almost all of the brands that participated in Something in the Water 2019 are coming back for 2020. This is just a long list of artists that have been announced so far. The list is extensive, and I think there's an interesting strategy here. If this is a festival is about shining a light on Virginia Beach to the world, these artists themselves, we're trying to shine a light on Virginia Beach to them as well. So a lot of these artists are younger artists in the very early days of their career. We want them to come to Virginia Beach, have this incredible moment as part of this festival, and remember that forever as they move on and have a fond memory of Virginia Beach for the rest of their career. Here's just a sample of some of the headliners. So we've, this year, even some of the people that were here last year are getting a little more space to have their own sets, like a Tyler, the Creator, but we have some incredible, incredible talent coming this year, and we're just excited. I mean, like as a fan, I personally actually don't ask who's coming to perform because I love learning about it when everyone else learns. So every time I look at something like that, I get really excited. And then the community. So last year we had a very short window to activate or create the festival, produce the festival, and lots of energy from our brand partners. Obviously, lots of help from the city, but ultimately, when it came time to engage the community in a very, very deep way, we did a few things very deeply, and a lot of those actually have remarkable stories attached to them, like the garden at SeaTac Elementary, remarkable success stories. And this year, because we had the benefit of time, we were able to do much, much more from a community engagement standpoint. And this is just a handful of stats that are very community-centric specifically. So right now, our email subscribers, just people from the community that are on our email list, and I'm sure there's a few that are from outside, are at 72,000. And we still have 6 weeks to the festival, and that will certainly grow. The same with our mobile app users. A lot of those app users did not delete their phone. It's not uncommon, or delete their app after the festival. It's not uncommon to do that, but we found that people kept their app on their phone throughout the entire year, just like we keep hearing stories and seeing gentlemen that have their wristbands from last year, which is incredible, and still wearing them. Volunteer applications. So last year, we had a volunteering program, but this year we wanted to make sure that we opened it up much broader and much earlier, and we've had an incredible amount of volunteer applicants. And this is just a testament to the community and their appreciation for what we're doing and their desire to be involved and help make it a success. We've had over 1,800 volunteer applications. We've had over 1,500 performers apply to perform in the various ways that performers are able to perform at the festival. We've had 437 local businesses apply to be a part of the marketplace that we're creating. And our marketplace, unfortunately, cannot handle even close to that. So we're doing our best. And this is obviously a multi-year effort. And every year we're improving, and every year we're learning demand for these kinds of things. But we had an incredible amount of demand for local businesses to participate in our marketplace. And then we have this new program that we did this year, which is, we kind of refer to aspects of the festival as being open source. And if you follow if you follow just a certain set of simple guidelines and an application process that helps make things somewhat legal, or very legal, excuse me, we created an opportunity for local businesses to participate and create events that are sanctioned by the festival, that use the festival IP. And we're very excited about that. That is a new iteration this year that we'll just hopefully learn and improve upon next year. And then, of course, press. Last year we had hundreds of press, not only applicants or people wanting to cover the event from everyone from major news sources, but local universities. Same kind of buzz this year. We're really excited about this because it's this press that enables this story to go far and wide, the story of Something in the Water in Virginia Beach. This is just a couple of examples of the community program, and of course art is a big part of Something in the Water. But just a handful of things. We have on March 19th, Plant a Seed Day. And this is just an opportunity for the community to gather and plant a seed, grow something. We have a Battle of the Bands. That last year there was a small Battle of the Bands at Princess Anne High School, and this is that on steroids. It's actually before the festival. It's on the 18th. We're really excited about that. It's high school bands all competing for a competition to perform during the festival. We're also doing a new garden. The success of the first garden that we did at SITW has led us to explore the idea of continuing to do more gardens. And the city themselves are exploring the idea of doing some even without the festival's collaboration. We're very excited about that. We have the marketplace that I mentioned. We have all sorts of special offers. We're back to that idea of being open source. We're enabling small businesses to create special offers that have and are drafting off of something in the water just as a way to stimulate their business. It's important that everyone can participate in some way. And then we have Restaurant Week, which this is something to come, but we're really excited about taking not only the idea of the food stuff that we're doing during something in the water, but also enabling that to spread a little further and wider and enabling restaurants to create their own special something in the water menus for the week of something in the water. So then on the art side, lots of stuff. We have an art gallery that's a pop-up art gallery that will be incredible. It's at Beach Social. We have art murals throughout the Vibe District. We did that in a pretty big way last year, and we'll continue to do that. We have art talks throughout the convention center programming, And then we also have at Princess Anne High School, a big mural festival. So that was Farrell's High School. A number of murals, very, very high profile, beautiful murals being painted around Princess Anne. And then we have an art symposium as well. So that's at the convention center. So once again, art and involving large amounts of community artist participation throughout the week. And with that said, I think I'm done. But thank you so much, and
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Great job, Robbie. Before we bring on Ford to give you all the site plan and introduce, we have some very special guests. I'm in the room. All of you are special guests. I like to consider these my colleagues who I work alongside. We just had our Virginia Beach Mayor, Bobby Dyer, come in as well. Let's give him a round of applause. We have, I believe, City Councilman Guy Tower here. He's somewhere here as well, in the front row. Also, my other colleague, Michael Berlucci, Councilman Berlucci here. We have our acting city manager here, Mr. Tom Leahy. And I believe we have our deputy city manager, Mr. Steve Colbert, as well. Our superhero amongst the bunch, our police chief, Chief Severa. Our other superhero amongst the bunch, we have Sheriff Stolley here. And I believe Deputy City Manager Ron Williams is here as well. And if I missed any of my colleagues in our our staff, please forgive me, it's really bright up here. But now I'm gonna bring on Forth to go over the site plan as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Aaron. So I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for coming tonight. We unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to work on this event this past year, but we did begin working on this event I think sometime in June of last year, so almost immediately after the event finished up. And I think one of the things that was probably the most important for us was on our first many visits to Virginia Beach was to not only look at the practical aspects of the event, but to spend time talking to folks within the community, whether they're business owners, property owners, people that worked on the event, and really try to understand the things that worked really, really well, and that people felt were positive aspects of how the event operated and worked within the community, and then also understand the things that maybe didn't work quite as well or that we could improve upon. And we've spent a great deal of time really looking at those pieces and trying to integrate them into Mr. Williams' vision for what this event is and what it hopes to evolve to over the coming years. And what we've come up with here is a representation of the event and kind of how this is expanding and evolving this year. And I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of talk through some of the challenges that we've that we've been working through to address the growth and evolution of this event.
Before we get into that, when did exactly your company, Red Rock, when did you start the planning of this year's festival?
I think I've had my first conversation with Mr. Williams in late May, beginning of June, and within, true to his energy and enthusiasm, I think it was about 3 days later that I was on a plane coming here to see Virginia Beach for the first time. So early June.
Early June, okay. Awesome.
So just as kind of a refresher, so last year's event, when we talk about the music piece of the event, was really kind of situated on the south end of the resort area. And just to kind of orient everybody here, this is Atlantic Avenue here. This would be the south end down here in the Rudy Loop, or the start of the Rudy Loop area. And then all the way up to, we've got 19th, 22nd kind of represented on this map here. Last year, the music piece was really relegated to this single stage that was located approximately about 5th Street, sorry. And the concert venue really came up to about 10th Street. So this kind of box right here. And for those that attended the event or kind of saw how this operated, most of the patrons were able to, show up at the Oceanfront, and then the main entrance was on the beach right here at 10th Street. One of the first things that we talked about and that Pharrell really felt was important was the ability to kind of expand and grow the level of artists, the number of artists that could come and participate at this event and see Virginia Beach and see what this was meant to be. And so we immediately started talking about how to expand the stages. I should also point out that the pop-up church, which was a fantastically well-received experience last year, was located kind of up in the 22nd Street area. And by all accounts, the production and the stage were first rate, and we just kept hearing just wonderful responses from everybody in the community about what that meant and how great that programming was. So that was also factored in to the 2020 discussion. What we ultimately ended up deciding to do was take the original location of the first stage and place it approximately in the same location that it was last year. An added additional stage that would complement that first stage. It's by no means a second stage or a smaller stage. It's meant to be an equal a stage presentation on equal footing with the southern stage, which we're calling the Atlantis stage. So the Neptune stage added here. For perspective, also, this is right about where the pier is located at 15th, between 15th and 16th. So that stage is located just south of the pier, and it plays back to the south. And then what was the pop-up church last year, we've brought down a little bit closer to the existing footprint of the other two stages, and the evolution of that stage is to utilize that as well on Friday and Saturday for additional programming for artists that have been invited in conjunction with Pharrell's affiliation with Global Citizen. So that third stage will be fully programmed as part of the festival proper on Friday and Saturday. And then on Sunday, that will evolve and change into the pop-up church that will be open to the community at large. So with this now becoming the overall footprint of the event, from 5th all the way up to about 18th, 19th, the challenge became how do we properly, get people to not only the resort community, but get them into the event site and the festival site safely and efficiently. So that really became, that has been a really heavy lift of discussion and meetings with property owners along the boardwalk there, and ultimately the concept of utilizing the connector roads that happen between Atlantic and the boardwalk as the points of entry into the festival. One thing that this does is this allows us to also bring more people in and kind of spread the the volume of people over a much, many more entrances and a much broader space. So that should provide for much lower, less long lines, a much more abbreviated process to come into the event. And then certain other streets that are not represented here would also be used for means of leaving the event at the end of the evening. The cause display, the cause installation, which is a big giant inflatable installation that everybody probably remembers from last year, will be returning again this year. I think we have a new installation, so it'll be a slight variation from what we saw last year, but I think it's actually even a bit bigger than what we saw last year. And then just the various components of the event have expanded. The food and drink offerings along the beach. We've paid really special attention to how these elements of the event are being integrated into the space. Some of the things that we heard as feedback from last year were just where things were placed, how they looked when they were placed. We've paid very special attention to where things are being put, how they'll operate during the event, what it looks like if you happen to be staying in one of the hotels or you live in one of the residences along the boardwalk. And that kind of leads me into a discussion of the manner in which we intend to put this in place. Obviously, an event of this size doesn't get built overnight. So one of the things that we've been working on as we've developed this event site and talked through how it'll operationally work over the course of the Friday, Saturday, Sunday is how are we going to build it in the time that we need to do this. And what we've come up with is really looking at this from a phased approach, that our intention will be to, in some very specific locations like the stages, those areas we'll have to specifically kind of manage and protect them for not only the worker safeties, but for residents or people that are staying in hotels in the week, 2 weeks leading up to the event. But really try and leave many segments of the beach open and accessible for those folks to be able to continue to use the beach through the process of us setting up the event. And really, as we build, we'll reopen areas that we've worked in already and move to the next space is the intention. But we want to make sure that the businesses along the boardwalk, the restaurants, and the boardwalk itself remain open in the days and weeks leading up to the event as we put this all together.
Awesome.
I'm going to talk a little bit about just kind of the broader scope. Again, for reference, we're kind of looking at it the same way: the South End Rudy Loop, north this way, the convention center up here at the top. Because of the manner in which that we're now bringing folks into and out of the event over the course of that distance from 5th up to 16th, 17th Street, we had to look at how we're going to utilize or how the Atlantic corridor and the Pacific corridor would operate. Again, always within mind that we want to make sure that businesses can remain open, residences are not inhibited, and that really, hopefully, we're also encouraging people to utilize and visit those businesses. But what we've come up with and what we've been working on is Atlantic Avenue will, by and large, remain open for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. In the days leading up to that, there'll be no alteration to traffic flow or anything like that. But when we come into the event days, the music event days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that the idea is that we want to try and always create circular traffic patterns. It allows folks to get where they're going, and it allows traffic to continue moving without that need to make left-hand turns across traffic. So the idea is that Atlantic Avenue for that Friday and Saturday, Sunday would become a northbound only direction. So you would enter, if you were going to your hotel, if you were going to your residence, if you were going to visit a restaurant, you would enter Atlantic Avenue from 5th Street, 9th Street. You would make that left-hand turn, that northbound, and you would be able to access any of the businesses, any of the establishments along Atlantic Avenue. We are going to try to limit festival goers just cruising or just trying to kind of see what's going on and try and keep it to folks that are actually have destinations along that corridor. But in no way is the intention to close that. And a portion of that road will be, on the eastern edge, will be kind of segregated so that we can allow for queue-up lanes and things like that for folks coming into the event in a safe manner. The Pacific Avenue corridor will remain fairly unaffected. It'll work in both directions in the manner that it does on a daily basis. We are having discussions about an emergency access lane on the northbound side, a single lane, but by and large, Pacific Avenue will operate as normal. The 19th Street corridor, the intention there is that, and I'm going to get into a little bit of what we're doing with traffic and parking and things like that. But really, the intention for the 19th Street corridor is it will remain open. Again, we want to make sure that businesses and residences along there are accessible and open and participatory. But we do want to try and our intention is to kind of steer any traffic or any folks that are coming into the resort area over to 21st Street, 18th, Virginia Beach Avenue, and really kind of try and maximize the use of the HRT system, the trolleys, moving back and forth between the convention center and the oceanfront. And I should also point out that for that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we'll be doing a very specific trolley route for that equipment between the convention center and the oceanfront, and then north and south between 18th and 22nd and 40th.
I think it's also important that you all know that the trolleys this year, the HRT, will be free.
Yes, for the weekend.
It'll be free, and that's going to help with that traffic congestion as well, and making sure that's continuously moving and getting patrons from there down that corridor.
Yes. One of the things another thing that we heard really, really loud and clear last year was how well the park and ride plan worked for this event. That there was and quite a testament to the team at the city here and the festival organizers in recognizing the limited amount of space for people to come and park their cars for an event like this. And there was a fantastic program put in place last year where patrons were directed to the local amphitheater and asked to park at that location, and then shuttle buses were provided to bring those patrons from that location over to the event site. It seemed to work fantastically well. It was very well received. It was very well utilized. At the end of the evening, folks were able to leave the event probably much quicker than by any other means by getting on those buses and heading back over to the amphitheater where they parked their vehicles. So really what we were asked to do in coming and looking at this year's and approaching this year's event was how do we expand on that program and how do we maximize that? It was highly efficient. And just for some perspective, there were approximately 5,000 to 6,000 parking spaces made available last year, 6,000 parking spaces available last year, and most of those parking spaces were utilized based on the numbers that we were able to extrapolate. In approaching this year's event, Brian and the city challenged us to expand that, and we had set a goal of 12,500 parking spaces to achieve out in that area, which we were able to do. We, through a combination of utilizing the amphitheater, the Hampton Road Soccer Complex, Tidewater Community College, and the Virginia Beach Sports Complex, we've created a program where, and we, through continued messaging, we're going to ask patrons to park their vehicles out there, take advantage of the ability to, if they're picking up their tickets, they can pick up their tickets out at that location. They'll be able to get pre-screened out at that location. get all their questions answered, hop on a bus, and we'll drop you off right at the front door of the event. We're actually even expanding the Uber and Lyft and rideshare operation for out there and encouraging people to take their Ubers and Lyfts out to that location and take the shuttles in. It's going to be probably the quickest way in and out of the resort area, and it certainly helps with the community and the lack of available parking.
You mentioned the Uber and the rideshare and the Lyft. Last year there was an issue with connectivity from cellular phones and mobile devices connecting to their ride shares. How has that improved this year?
Yes, so through Robbie's efforts and the sponsorship team, there was a discussion with several of the utility mobile providers. Verizon was a partner on the event last year, and I think through discussions that Robbie and his team have had, the city, Verizon has actually stepped up in a fantastic way and came to us with some technical solutions to address that. And very, very recently, they approached the festival and the city with a program to install some temporary towers along the Oceanfront, which I think they're starting to go in now. But the idea is to put 3 temporary mobile towers or cellular towers along the oceanfront to help with that process. And I think the understanding is, or the intention is that although those locations wouldn't become permanent, the idea is that they will roll that infrastructure into some sort of a permanent.
I've noticed on the map with the accessibility of the ride share was a lot closer to the actual footprint to get festival goers out of the initial footprint into their ride shares. Is that something that's by design? How did that work out?
Yeah, when we started looking at the rideshare program last year, and it was our understanding that the Uber and Lyft program was situated up here at the convention center, and some of the infrastructure for the festival was located here at the convention center, which I think made sense because there was other programming happening here, but the box office was located here. If you were picking up credentials, it was located here. So I think in that inference, it made sense to have the Ubers and Lyfts drop off here. I think in listening to how the operation worked and talking to a lot of people within the community over the past many months, I think what we determined was the distance that it took for folks to get from the convention center over to the oceanfront, both before the event and then certainly after the event, really kind of created some side effects that we felt we could kind of get in front of this year, and especially with potentially more people attending this year. So we've also engaged and been working very closely with Uber in specific and their corporate team. They have been extremely helpful in providing some analytics from last year. We've gotten them to engage with us this year, and they're actually going to be on site at the festival, some of their technical team, and very kind of instrumental in helping us facilitate some of the things that we want to do. But to answer your question, what we determined was the idea of moving the rideshare locations, instead of having one central location, breaking it up into several locations to kind of help divide the groups of people, more so specifically for when people are leaving at the end of the night, because that's when most folks are, most of the inventory is taxed. And then also bringing it in closer to the festival itself. So that serves a couple of reasons. It's a little bit more user-friendly to the person that's trying to get a ride home. But it also helps keep folks from kind of peeling off into the neighborhoods or trying to find a spot where they can get better reception. It also prevents the drivers from doing those same things, peeling off into areas that we don't really want them to go to, by just bringing everything a little bit closer to where the customer's trying to pick up.
So they will enter that circular pattern of traffic you talked about.
Correct.
Okay.
In this instance, and it's represented up in this drawing, the green line represents the rideshare traffic pattern. Again, we try to look at things in a circular means, but so those vehicles will be directed to come in to the resort area using 21st and potentially 22nd. And then whether they're entering, so the locations that we've established are the 19th Street Municipal Lot on the north corner. We're, with the help and assistance of the Star of the Sea school, they're going to allow us to use a portion of their parking lot, which is located at, I think that's 16th. And then at the corner of 9th and I'm sorry, Norfolk and Pacific, there's also a lot there that we're actually making some improvements to, additional driveway to help us provide for that circular pattern. So at any one of those lots, those vehicles will be directed, again, with the help of Uber and Lyft specifically, into those lots. We also, for the end of the event, we want to try to get as many vehicles in place ahead of time as possible. And then they'll be directed southbound on Pacific and then westbound on Norfolk to exit the resort area.
That's awesome.
And just the red line up there kind of shows the route that the shuttles over from our off-site park and ride locations will enter. Just kind of high level, they'll come down Dam Neck Road to General Booth, into the resort area, and then at various intervals will be directed down onto Atlantic for that drop-off straight into the event, and then circle back to those pickup spots. I think I've kind of covered most of the stuff high level.
I think you got it all. Great job. Great job, Floyd. Now I just want to pivot just a little bit into our city side of function. And Brian, can you just give us a brief, or give us an overlook or overview of how that came about, the city side of the festival?
So we have a whole network of city staff here. Most of them are here on the front two rows that really support all of the over 500 events that are permitted throughout the city. Not all of them are as obviously larger scale as Something in the Water. It's very unique in that way, but they're all very special and unique. So from our public works, traffic operations, to our traffic engineers, to the broader scope of everything that public works does in operations, they're the heavy lifters and kind of the unsung heroes behind the scenes. They're represented here on the right, on my right, your left. Over here we have the sheriff's office, our fire department leadership, our EMS leadership. Of course, I introduced the chief of police earlier, and on top of all of that is our acting city manager, Tom Leahy, and our deputy city managers and all their portfolios. And so we've been meeting for the last 7 or 8 months on starting to plan for this year's festival. And we kind of did similar groupings or into strategic areas, mostly focused on 2 priority areas first, and that's safety and security, and then transportation and parking. Those are the 2 key elements, and then infrastructure support. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we communicate to and from the festival, and they're adept to doing this and popping up festivals and various type of venues around the world, really. And we show them where that infrastructure is, and then they augment it with their own services, whether it be water or electric or trash removal. And so you have that symbiotic relationship so that they know what we have and they know what they have to augment, and then it comes together in a plan and ultimately permitted by Ms. Jamie Capps. I think she's out in the audience somewhere, our special event and film office manager, who's really come in this year and really helped streamline that process in line with the other events. So we really have a comprehensive process in place already for the hundreds of events that we permit and that we welcome every year. And this is very unique and special in its own.
I just want to take this time as well. Can we take this time to give our city staff just a round of applause? I mean, this festival would not have been as successful as it was in 2019 without the hard work and commitment of our city staff. I mean, they work hours upon hours, days upon days to make sure this festival is not only safe, but it's also fun and have a great time working with Red Rock. And my hat goes off to our city staff. You guys and ladies and gentlemen are amazing. Switching right to Aaron, I'm going to kind of toss you this is a hardball question here. Brian just basically gave us a whole overview of how our city is interacting with the festival and bringing forth this great festival. Your department, you want to talk a little bit about exactly what do you do when it comes to the festival?
So in our portfolio we fall under the Deputy City Manager of Public Safety. So we have fire, police, EMS, our emergency communications, which is 911 and 311, our Office of Emergency Management, and EMS. We all work together. As Brian alluded to, the over 500 special events. We work together very seamlessly on the public safety side of these events. Also with my office, we have hurricanes and other events that we work together very closely on. So for us to sit down, we started, the festival ended April 2019, and we picked right back up to evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and kicked right back into gear to start looking at 2020 and streamline that process. And we've been meeting on a regular basis. We're at the point that we're meeting weekly now in putting our event action plans together so that we are all on the same page as it relates to understanding not only what the event is providing, but where public safety overall fits into this in for 311, helping push messaging that may need to be done, 911 and our fire and EMS folks in providing that medical support, and then our police and sheriff's office providing that safety and security for the event. We also, so our local partners work together, but also our neighboring cities help us provide support as well. It's a large event. We do need a little bit of help in some areas, and we work together on a day-to-day basis, but also they come in and help us with different areas that we may need some extra manpower. Also integrated with the state, we have some state agencies that do come down and provide support for us as well. And this is not just for something in the water. We do this for multiple events throughout the year, and then obviously in emergencies as well. So for us, we know each other, we work together on a daily basis and put these plans together.
So speaking of public safety, it's on everybody's mind. You're thinking it right now. Probably 9 times out of 10 you are. It's coronavirus.
So who do we have to talk about that? So the coronavirus, it's a great question, a good opportunity to touch base on this. It's out there. Whether you call it coronavirus, COVID-19, or the new name they have, SARS-CoV-2, it's all very high on our list of monitoring it. We work very closely with the local health department, our state health department, and the CDC. We have a task force that's meeting weekly so that our communications is streamlined and all of us are on the same page, which is extremely important as we have to monitor this situation because it's ever evolving. There's a lot of unknowns with this. I wish we did have more concrete information, but you also have to remember we've done this with H1N1. We've done this with pandemic, with SARS, with Ebola. We have been planning since before 2004. We have plans in place. And at the end of the day, as we proceed forward in our planning, the show must go on.
All right. I think what's important also is that safety is the #1 priority here. Making sure everyone has a good time, but the environment is safe. And if you remember last year, first year of the festival, that thunderstorm that came through and washed out, I think the way our city responded, the way the festival responded was perfect. Got everyone off the beach, but also gave everyone a small refund back to on the first day, and the rest of the week went very well. Jen, we haven't had a chance to hear from you yet, so can you talk about the free programming that's going on throughout the week here at the Convention Center?
Absolutely. So Robbie kind of touched on everything that's happening here Monday through midday Friday with the verticals of tech innovation and Women's Day, but it's very much what Robbie mentioned about the vision and the mission of this festival, which is bringing fantastic people that Pharrell has met, in his travels and different other engagements, and bringing them here to Virginia Beach and partnering them with local Virginia Beach leaders as well. So everything that's happening here at the community will have, I believe, mid-March, you'll be able to visit somethingthewater.com and you'll be able to see the programming day by day. But the key point is everything is entirely free to the community. You'll be able to RSVP online so we can find out which events are going to be larger, but it'll be one right here in this room and the preceding ballrooms. But we will have activities throughout the whole week, throughout this whole building. So please stay on the lookout. Go back to the website mid-March, and please RSVP to come, because there are going to be some fantastic individuals coming here to Virginia Beach.
Well, one of those individuals I'm excited about, Robbie, is in the paper has been reported that Tony Hawk is coming here.
That is true.
Is that true?
Tony Hawk is part of the program.
And what about the rocket scientist that
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes, he's coming here as well. Yeah. I'm excited about that myself.
I'm excited about that.
For last year, one of the issues we also heard about was ADA, accessibility for our disabled Americans here.
Yeah.
How was the festival took that issue and put that into the festival this year?
Great question. Look, one of the benefits of having this amount of time to plan an event is and really look at things in express detail. We established that we could make really specific efforts to make sure that, again, keeping with the intention of Pharrell's inclusiveness, that anybody can attend this event and experience it across all aspects of it. So we've not only have we engaged a third-party company that specializes in ADA accessibility for events to make sure that they're giving us the freshest and newest ideas, but also kind of on the lookout for things that maybe we didn't consider and didn't look at. But things like we've talked about specific platforms or viewing platforms for each of the stage areas, kind of a specialized walkway down on the beach so that each of the areas are accessible for folks.
Brian, the festival is bringing a large amount of people here. Cleanup. Can you talk just a little bit about what that looks like?
So within the festival footprint itself, we coordinate with the festival and provide them with trash receptacles, and they do the majority of cleanup throughout the event hours itself, and then, of course, right afterwards. But then right after they're done, kudos to our beach operations folks, because they come in with the beach combers that they have, which is kind of these trail behind chain nets that kind of both soften the sand and bring all the residual trash up to the top, and that's collected, and the beach is fresh and clean to go on the next day. So in addition to that, the festival is required to have a recycling plan, and they're just from a sustainability standpoint and a stewardship standpoint, leaving it better than you found it. They'll have a very robust recycling plan as well, and there's perhaps some activations that are associated with that and some partnerships that will be announced related to that as well. So cleanup's a big deal. Kudos also to the community, because last year there was a grassroots effort to do a post-event cleanup on the following Monday morning with just, and kudos to the Vibe Creative District and the other folks involved with the Virginia Beach Clean Community Commission, that from essentially the convention center all the way east, there was a huge cleanup the following day, and there's a photo that shows what residual trash was left, that it literally left it better than it was before the event. So it's a huge effort. Before I stop, I'd like to also give kudos to our communications office and our Convention and Visitors Bureau, primarily because they do your job well in some ways. They fade off into the background, but you see this production that they have put forth and the way that they host us here at the Convention Center, and in other ways, our visitors in the millions from around the globe, and just appreciate them too. So just wanted to give them a plug.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going to pivot right into, it's about 7:30. I have 30 minutes left in tonight's meeting. We're going to pivot, try to get a lot of these questions answered tonight. First question from our audience: something in the water and buses. Are the shuttle buses still running from 20th Street to 26th Street? So I believe the HRT, if I'm reading that correctly, your question. So I would say yes. And then we just discussed this, the hours of cleanup every day. Great job, Brian. So let's go on to the next question. Traffic, something in water traffic. How are merchant staff getting to work? I don't know how you're getting to work, but parking, you may want to cover that as well.
Yeah, so again, we looked at, when we evaluated different roads, whether they're limited access or areas where, a road from between Pacific and Atlantic might have the necessity to be restricted or closed. Everything, again, was kind of looked through the lens of how does the community continue to operate, not only in the days and weeks leading up to the event, but over the event days. We legitimately want people to participate. So the intention is that primarily employees or staff that are going to work at the hotels or a restaurant would be able to utilize their existing parking plans, right? In the event that they're unable to, through means of some infrastructure element of the event, or just traffic's just, too crazy. One of the things that we've done, and actually I think I missed this in my part of the presentation. In the decision to move the rideshare components a little closer to the actual the music festival piece, it really kind of freed up a tremendous amount of parking here at the convention center on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So one of the things that we proposed, and to the city's great effort, is that we offered the position of allowing us to provide the parking spaces that normally would be sold here at this location as a means of us putting those parking spaces for sale online in conjunction with ticket sales. And it really had very, very little to do with the economics of it, but more about the opportunity to provide a place for a very small number of people to be able to potentially park, and allow us to understand and message those folks to go to a specific place to park, rather than to come into the community and search for places to park, right? And in working through that, we also understood that that this need may arise for some of the businesses along this corridor in this area of the resort, for their employees to park. So we've specifically established a component or a portion of the parking here at the convention center that we can make available to business owners, hotels, whomever might feel that their employees might be displaced or have a little bit more of a tougher effort getting to their job. And we'll make those parking spaces available to those folks. And then again, with the ability to utilize the trolley system over to the oceanfront, we're hoping that that'll help mitigate that.
Next question. Exit and re-entry. Can the ticket holders exit and re-enter the festival areas?
The answer is yes, absolutely. Each of the wristband, or each of the attendees will have an electronically controlled wristband that we'll be using as they enter the event, just like last year. And at the same time, when those folks exit throughout the course of the day, they'll be able to kind of register out.
All right, I don't want to skip over any questions. This question is about banners. Are the businesses going to use something in the water banners like when Shriners come to town? You want that? So I guess what are I don't know.
I'm not sure. I know that.
I don't even know how to answer that, to be honest.
You want to, Brian?
I can address part of it. So the festival organizer or Live Nation component of it has reached out to the city and coordinated to install banners on, just to create that festive, welcoming atmosphere throughout the resort area in particular, and all the way up through the Convention Center and Sports Center, 19th Street corridor, and all the way down to along the boardwalk. So the answer is yes for that component. And then there's also, though, that business engagement process where, and maybe Robbie, you could help enlighten us about the businesses that are affiliated with the festival. They'll have a decal, right, in the window or something similar to show that they're affiliated with the festival?
They'll definitely have the ability to create and and present the logo in an official way. And that's, if you recall, there was a slide that I presented that had a section that said still open, and that is an opportunity for local businesses to create sanctioned things, events, et cetera, that can bear the Something in the Water name and become official. So
I think you answered this in your question. The next question is about access for vendors. I think you answered this in the traffic pattern. But how will delivery drivers for restaurants and hotels get around the festival this year?
Yeah, again, that circular traffic pattern, that northbound access on Atlantic, Pacific will remain the same. And I should add that it's our intention to make sure that this information is not only available on the website, but for businesses that are located along that corridor, we'll provide actual documents that give these directions, the days and hours that they'll be in effect. And then we'll also continue to message this through the Something in the Water app. So we would actually encourage folks that are just in the community and maybe not attending the event to still download that app, because there's actually a section in there that is specifically set up and will be messaged for folks just in the community that aren't attending the event, that'll discuss things like intersections that are being adjusted or limited access.
The parking authority, for the city question, the parking authority was ticketing people around 8 p.m. last year in Shadow Lawn. It's just really fair to customers paying money to attend and pay parking fines. Well, we still have parking restrictions, and you got to be mindful where you park at. And I don't know if Brian want to expand upon that.
So you covered it pretty well, Councilman Rouse, in that there are RPP designated areas, residential parking permits. Shadow Lawn is one of those areas that, unless you're a resident and you have, a decal and you're allowed a certain amount of visitors as well, then yes, it is to protect the neighborhoods that folks that reside there all year long. So it'll be clearly communicated where you're able to park, both the public spaces and the private spaces. There are a number of private lots that are open. We don't want to discourage folks from coming down and accessing those. We are just encouraging folks that the easiest way to get in and out of the resort, if you're coming to the festival, would be the park and ride.
Yes.
Yes, sir, that effort is to protect the neighborhoods, and that's the resort beach area, that's the SITW community, and that's Shadow Lawn in particular, where those programs are in place, and it's important to protect the neighborhoods.
Next big topic of discussion was hotel prices. Finding an available hotel room was a headache. In the future, what does Something Water intend to do to make this process better? I purchased a ticket, and what's keeping someone from making a counterfeit parking pass? I think we have ambitious people all over. You have to be very careful about purchasing, whether it's tickets for the festival or parking passes or share ride parking passes. Be very careful on purchasing those things. There are a lot of opportunistic people out there looking to make a quick buck. And so if it hasn't come from the festival in itself, I wouldn't purchase it, and I would recommend you not as well. But Brian, you may can speak to this. Talk about that really building throughout the city, starting back in October, of what the festival, the outreach is about, making sure hotel prices, and I'm not even sure that's the city can dictate what hotel prices do. That's a private business and entity. But talking about building that partnership here, where we try to make sure this is a seamless process for festival goers.
So I'm not sure it's necessarily my place to speak to it, but I'll try, because it is a key issue, and it's a touchy one, because we're a republic, we're a capitalist society. But if we want a long-term relationship with the Something in the Water Festival, we want Virginia Beach and our region and the Commonwealth to be welcoming. And to that extent, why don't we, one approach could be to take the long view at this, and that is, it's great for business to incrementally increase your revenue. Especially as we try to increase that demand in the shoulder season. So,
it's a tough one. I think
speaking to the owners and managers and the folks that have control of that, and some of it is the parent companies. It's something to consider about incremental incremental increase parallel with the success of the festival versus all at once. Look at it from a long view would be a point.
But those are private. I think the key point. Those are private businesses.
Correct.
You can dictate what they do with their.
And from the festival perspective, this was something that we understood as a sensitivity, and I know that it was a point of discussion for us, but at the end of the day, you know, after conversations, it's up to the various entities, the property owners, to make the decision.
I think it also helps that last year there were not competing, but additional events happening that were putting pressure on inventory. And there's less of that here this year. However, the prices are what they are.
Robbie, can you talk just about the outreach and how vendors, maybe give an overview of that discussion, how vendors could partake in this year, and then they'd have opportunity this year. It reminds us this is the second year of this festival, and so creating that opportunity and building that relationship for years to come.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
You know, from the outset, it was important to us last year. It was just difficult to be able to implement just because of the short amount of time, what I mentioned earlier. This year, it was important to get out ahead of that and just create more opportunities. And hopefully be more clear about what those opportunities were via the communications on our website, application processes, and things of that nature. And this is it's the first year that we've taken that approach. We're learning a lot from that experience. First and foremost, learning the demand. It's incredible. But that, you know, it's a process on our end to be able to understand that demand, understand how to process that demand, and execute against it. But as it stood this year, as you can imagine, there's vendors on the beach, and that stuff gets, you know, taken care of relatively early and closes down relatively early. But there remains opportunities as the weeks go on to continue to engage and apply to be parts of the festival in different ways. And as I mentioned, there's still some that are open, even though we're still just 6 weeks out. So it's a mixed bag of opportunities that should appeal to a number of different types of businesses. And it's a process and it's an evolution, and we're excited for the enthusiasm. We're doing our best to harness it. I joke with Pharrell all the time, like there is a lot of enthusiasm to harness here. Lots of opportunity to go to do more of that type and do more of the community engagement stuff.
Transportation and parking. How do we get from premium parking, and I would assume it's at the convention center, since it says, do we need to purchase a trolley ticket, and if so, where?
Right. So a great question, and the answer is yes. So we've kind of designated this parking up here at the convention center as a kind of a premium parking location, but the trolley will pick up right here at the convention center and move down to the.
But do you have to purchase the ticket?
But you don't have to purchase a ticket.
So what's that key word we look for?
It's free.
What is it? Free. I love that word.
Can I dive in here, because I see some HRT operators and supervisors that are out here in that second tier, so I'd like to thank them for what they do.
Yes, thank you.
You know, managing the crowds and moving people. But I'd like to piggyback on what Ford said, because it's important to note, yes, that parking is still available for out here for all weekend, but they need to know they still might need to walk a little bit. So it's going to go to Arctic Avenue, okay, from basically right out front here to just around Arctic Avenue. And the goal with that would be not to create additional congestion right close to the festival footprint and make that even hopefully more of a pedestrian zone at that point.
Right.
So that's something, there's still a couple blocks of walking once you get to that point.
Can you talk about from a security standpoint and measure access around Rudy Loop for surfers?
Yeah, we've spoken with a few folks about that and understanding the sensitivity there, and that being a very popular surfing location. There's going to be a bit of activity that takes place in Rudy Loop in the weeks leading up to the event. We're trying to keep that concise and focused in the areas that we just need to facilitate starting to put the event together. What we've established is that surfing, or those folks that wish to utilize the jetty there and the park, will have there's a place to park there. On the western side of Rudy Loop. There's a pathway that'll allow them to traverse over to that location for all the days leading up, right up until the first day of our music portion of the festival on Friday. So we want to keep that open to those folks. They'll be able to utilize it. It unfortunately will need to be restricted on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday for security reasons. But then first thing on Monday morning, be back open for those folks to use.
Thank you. Porta potties. Someone wants to know how many do we have and what's the access like in the footprint?
I know. I'm gonna see if you know.
I
read your plan. I want to see if you.
Oh man, I don't remember. We've changed the numbers a couple of times. We've been revising up.
A lot. They want to know.
It's in the 500 to 600 range, right?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
With the complement of ADA and required
absolutely.
ADA. So.
And this is actually a great point of something I alluded to in the discussion, my portion of the discussion earlier, is that we looked at, this is a tremendous amount of infrastructure and porta potties, and where we're positioning them, and how we're kind of beautifying them so that
Another porta potty question.
so things like canopy covers and walls and things like that will still allow them to be used the way that they need to be used for the festival, but you won't necessarily have to experience that if you're staying in a hotel or you live in a residence. That's not what you're going to be looking at over the course of the
Robbie.
festival.
I would like to, if I could, Councilman, real quick, compliment the festival that last year there were hundreds of porta potties that were between the boardwalk and the hotel and residences and the businesses, just because they were trying to maximize the use of the beach. And the festival this year took a really close look at that and put them as far away from and even down close on the beach up against the boardwalk, so that they weren't abutting those in terms of compatibility. So there should be, if you're a festival goer and you're on the beach in the footprint, you'll have an easier walk. And then if you're a resident or a business or a guest of a hotel, they won't be within your view shed really.
Robbie, Yellow Zone. Can you speak about Yellow Zone, and are there tickets still available? So what is Yellow Zone?
That's a good question on the availability.
There are
tickets available. Yes. The Yellow Zone is a fundraising-oriented ticket. So the funds generated by the sales of those tickets go to fund Yellow, which is a Pharrell's nonprofit, to be announced more largely at the festival. And what was the rest of the question? What is the Yellow Zone? So the Yellow Zone is just, and you could probably speak more to the details of it, but just more premium viewing opportunities and.
Yeah, it's a really high level premium experience for the festival, and its sole purpose, its sole intention is to raise money and have that money go directly for.
But how close
charitable.
will you be to the Foo Fighters? Are they close?
You'll be
Post Malone. That's what people want to know. Is Yellow Zone? Do I get that close to the Foo Fighters?
Part of the amenities for that program are you get up really up close and personal.
That's awesome.
to that.
That's awesome. Jen, back to the convention center and the scheduling of that. What time will the weekday events begin?
Times will vary. I think we have some things that'll start as early as 8 a.m. And will go into the evening. Some of the programming is actually into the evening, and so various times, like an 8 to 10 a.m. start, and then depending if it's an evening program, but probably end 5 or 6 if it's not.
Okay. Talked about that. And startup businesses. I know that community engagement and community involvement is one of the things to something in the water. What is the policy for setting up a kiosk informational for startups? Are there limits to that?
So the festival this year, excuse me, the what I would consider the equivalent of a kiosk here in the convention center, which is the only place a kiosk is relevant, aside from the marketplace, is the realm of our sponsors. So our sponsors, as part of their sponsorship, are given space to present themselves in a variety of different ways. That is with this particular festival, that is the format of a kiosk. We don't have a trade show type environment. We don't have a scenario where there's lots of different people setting up here in the convention center. We're just, it may be part of the future of the festival, but it's not year 2 of the festival. But there is the local marketplace, of which I mentioned earlier, where we have received a lot of applications and are sorting through those to place people. And I think letting people know already that they're in.
That's another question for you, Robbie. People want to know, can you use the Something in the Water logo without being sued?
Why don't you try? Test your luck.
Does the new sports center play a role in the festival? The new sports center is not online, but we talked about the parking availability.
Correct, yeah.
Brian, if you want to expand upon that, you can.
So, and that project is going very well and complements the public works and the private contractors that are building that and folks managing it. And we are looking for programming in it. There's a couple opportunities for 2021. This year, one of the benefits, like Ford went over earlier, is that there is that combined parking of several thousand parking spaces that will be available for the programming during the weekday here at the convention center. So please come and experience that. And then also for the premium parking pass. So the inside, no. The outside and parking, yes. And 2021 inside, just let's wait and see.
All right, awesome.
Real quick, Aaron, I want to go back to that logo usage question. I kind of gave it a joking answer, but there's obviously it's hard to police a lot of that. We don't encourage it. However, there are certain things that we have to mandate, and those are uses of language like an official after party or anything that draws an official connotation or relationship with the festival. We have been known to try to stop that type of stuff. So.
Awesome.
But the program that's currently in place for people to
Exactly.
go online and
Offers opportunity.
request that affiliation, that's the answer to how to utilize those materials.
Access question for you, Ford. When can we know the exact location of exit and entrances at the festival? So ingress and egress.
As of tonight. So the map that we displayed tonight will be made available hopefully sometime later this evening.
It's on the site already.
It's up. Apparently, it's up on the site now.
Local media participation, media passes. How does one attain a media pass?
There should be a link on the website. There is a team of people on our end that manage that process, manage that access. It's on the website.
And I know you partner with the Vibe District here to bring forth local artists as well. How are local artists selected to paint murals, and could anyone volunteer to do so?
The art program.
Yeah, there is. It's part of the art program. You'll see, forgive me for not knowing exactly if it's closed down yet. Some of these things are still open, some aren't. But it would be on the website.
Yeah.
And I see Nina Goodall out there in the audience with our Cultural Affairs office. I know she's working with partners on the mural festival, and so they're kind of in process now in planning, but there may be opportunities for the public to be engaged, along the way with that piece.
And anything that may not exist on the website as an answer, there's a link on the website, info@somethinginthewater.com. We'll also have that up on the screen here before everybody leaves. Oh, there it is right now. But please feel free to email us that question or something that you don't see on the website, and we'll get back with you.
So when will the second lineup drop? People waiting on that. Robbie, when will those? Oh, what?
We don't even know.
Yeah, it's in the works.
And then worse. All right, and maybe Brian, you can answer this, and I could as well. Will Bird and Lime scooters be available this year, not within the festival footprint, correct?
So you guys have really put me on the hot seat now. But so that process is that they're currently not permitted in the city unless they have a franchise license. So through council's direction, we went through a process of objectively creating a request for proposals for the motorized scooters to operate in Virginia Beach, with the caveat that they abide by and they develop their plans for managing them in a way that's more compatible with pedestrians, motor vehicles, and the environment in general. So we're right in the middle of that process. We intend to go to council within the coming weeks or at least the next month on awarding up to 4 of those franchises. There were 4 companies that applied. I'm not sure we can get everything properly in place by Something in the Water, maybe just after that. And especially since we're expanding the capacity and the footprint this year, roughly 70%, I think the right thing to do here is to see how the festival goes now, and then integrate them in the warm season, maybe right after the festival, say maybe May 1st. That is not official, but that's the way that we're leaning at this point.
Transportation, can you please make a trolley that goes up and down Norfolk Avenue? That is the ride share portion of it, but I'm not sure if you can make a trolley go up and down. They have
I'll just real quick try to touch
specific
that. So for trolleys, we tried to, or just in transit in general, is link origins and destinations that provide the best movement of people. And we believe that the 19th Street corridor will do that, and we believe the Atlantic Avenue, Pacific Avenue, North-South corridor will do that. At Norfolk Avenue, you don't have as many origins and destinations along there, so that's the reason why we picked 19th Street
All
instead.
right. The concession stands, bartending at this event, can you register? Anyone register or apply?
Yes, the idea in that online registration period that took place was that anybody could apply, and each of those applications would be evaluated, and those folks would be contacted. I believe that's a piece that the window for this year is already closed. But as Robbie has alluded to, this is only the second year of this event, and there's an evolution and a growth that's going to take place, and we'll look to continue to expand that program next year.
Public safety aspect of it. Are there EMS? Are there volunteers, and what medical providers will we have there at the festival this year? I know Centera is a large.
So we will have our EMS providers and support from our fire department as well, and working with Centera. And EMS, the majority are volunteers, and are a great asset to our folks in putting on this event.
Since the military is such a big part of Hampton Roads area, would they be involved? If so, how?
So I'll take a dive at that while others maybe marinate on it for a little bit. But so like I was saying earlier at the onset, each of the festivals in the city are very unique. And we're very thankful for the Patriotic Festival that started the genesis with the USO, which is just a month after Something in the Water. And that's really a focus that we don't want to detract from, right? So what happened last year was the festival, reached out to Oceana. There was a flyover and welcomed some of the leadership, and I'm sure some of the leadership will be welcome again this year. There won't be a flyover. We want to focus those type of military resources and welcoming with the Patriotic Festival, since that is their theme. We do not want to detract from their theme, and so but all military are obviously welcome, and I'm sure that the leadership from the area installations will be invited to participate one way or the other.
And I'll just add that through the course of our planning and the level, comprehensive level of discussions about all of the aspects of this, there have been numerous conversations with some of the local military, whether the bases or command structure, and they have been fantastically supportive and informative and helpful in places that they could be.
We have approximately 4 minutes left, and so I'm going to ask a couple more questions. Rules of the venue: are clear and transparent bags okay? And will they be allowed inside the festival?
Yes, I think to be specific, yeah. So the prohibited items and the allowed items list is located on the festival website as well as the app. I believe there's pretty concise information there, but if there's specific questions about an item, I would just encourage people to email us at the
Event lockers.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Have
there'll
event
be the
lockers.
opportunity for you to store your stuff, charge your phone once you're inside the festival.
And then residents assessing homes. I think last year think our officers did last year of getting residents in and out their communities as well. But also I think the traffic plan this year is that circular pattern will help out with a lot of access getting in and out of their homes. With 3 minutes left, there's a ton of other questions we have. And on the screen right now, you see how the contact information you have, you send your questions to them as well. But I want to thank our panel here tonight for having this community conversation. I want to thank our staff who are in attendance, our expert advisors here tonight. And I want to thank you all for coming out to Something in the Water 2020 Community Forum Conversation. And remember, if you have any other questions, all the information is on the screen, but we'll try to answer those questions right away. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.